The ASUS Zenfone series has finally made its way back to Malaysia after a short hiatus. This one that we've got right here today is the ASUS Zenfone 8 Flip. And no, the flip in the name does not refer to a flippable screen like the Motorola Razr or the Samsung Z Flip. Rather, it refers to this. Cool, huh? So anyway, this is not the flagship model in the series. That honour goes to the compact 5.9-inch ASUS Zenfone 8. This one right here has a massive 6.67-inch screen as well as a 230-gram weight. Alright, before we dive into further details about the phone, let's first take a look at what's in the box. So as you can see, it's a nice grey box and very thick, which means there's a charger inside. So without further ado, let's go. Alright, so on top, you will get this small box which says Defy Ordinary. So I assume all the accessories are inside here. And if you open it up, you will get the SIM tray ejector right here. And you will also get all your usual paperwork. So this is the user guide as well as the warranty card. And this is what I really like. They have given us a phone case. So due to the unusual nature of this phone, I think it won't be that easy to find aftermarket cases on Shopee or Lazada or wherever so soon after launch, so it's great that they've given us one. And I also like that it's not the usual transparent TPU rubber case that turns yellow after a few months, so that's great. And here is where the phone usually goes, but it's already out, so wrapper. And on the bottom layer, indeed, we have the 30-watt charger as well as the USB-C to USB-C cable. Now let's talk about the design of this phone. So this one comes in two colors, which is Galactic Black and Glacier Silver, which is what we have right here. So it's very nice. As you can see, it has this very nice gleam throughout, and it only has one color accent, which is on the side, on the power button. So this is in light blue, which reminds me of the ROG Phone 5 Ultimate that we reviewed earlier. So as I said, this thing weighs 230 grams, which means you don't want to be lying down in bed and dropping it on your nose while reading comics. So as you can see, the entire back is glossy and the phone's name is right here in the middle. The sides are more like a frosted or matte kind of metal. And because the camera up here is quite chunky, it makes it kind of top heavy, so you have to be very careful not to drop it when you're holding it. And on the right side, you will see the power button and the volume rocker. On the left is the SIM card tray. On the top is of course a speaker grill on the front, and on the bottom is the USB-C charging port, the speaker grill, microphone as well as a notification light, which is getting rarer and rarer nowadays. And under the triple camera module on the back is another microphone hole for the mic focus feature. And in any case, you will always want to keep a phone case on this at all times for a number of reasons. Firstly, like I mentioned earlier, it is pretty slippery. And secondly, while the front is made of Gorilla Glass 6, the back is only made of Gorilla Glass 3, so it's less scratch resistant than you'd like it to be. And finally, having a case on also prevents the flip camera from opening unintentionally, like this. So, although as you can see the flip camera will automatically retract after it flips out, it's still better to keep it in place when it's in your handbag or in your pocket. And so that's where these two cases comes in. So this was the case that we saw earlier, the ASUS Active case, and this is the Rhino Shield case that comes bundled with the pre-orders. So both of them have this mechanism to stop the thing from flipping out. So the ASUS Active case has a little notch right up here which you can pull out and it will physically restrain the camera from opening up. As for the Rhino Shield, this one is more interesting. It has a little sliding window which goes down and up, and that's it. If you go into the camera settings, you will find that you can choose the type of case that the phone is using. So it recognizes both the ASUS Active case as well as the Rhino Shield case. So you can just pick which one you're using at the moment. So when you're taking pictures and the thing is closed, it will prompt you to open it up before you can use the camera. So one may ask, why use a flip camera then? Why go through all that hassle with all the case and everything? So well, there are two reasons. The first one is aesthetics. So as you can see, there's no punch hole on the front, there's no dewdrop, teardrop or whatever you call it, so the screen is perfectly clean. And secondly, if you're a selfie addict or you're an avid vlogger, you can get back camera quality selfies and pictures for the front. And if you want to be hardcore, you can also do 4K 60 FPS vlogging or even 8K 30 FPS if you're that extra. But then if you're worried about durability, about it, flipping open, close the mechanism, you don't have to worry because ASUS has rated this for 300,000 flips. That is more than 150 flips a day for more than 5 years. Which is great because most people change their phones before 5 years are up anyway. The main camera is a 64 megapixel Sony IMX686 lens, and it's accompanied by a wide-angle lens and a telephoto lens. So apart from super high quality selfies, this thing also has one special function, which is effortless panoramas. As for picture quality, this phone produces very natural colors which are quite true to life. So if you're used to those very saturated colors that you can find on most modern phones, it may take some time for you to get used to it. In dim lighting, it's still alright, but when it's dark, it struggles the most. Of course, it does have night mode, which does a 4-second exposure to let more light in, but the pictures are still rather grainy and lose a lot of detail. Also, it sadly does not have optical image stabilization, but it does do well with minor hand movements, so unless you had lots of coffee and your hand is shaking, you should be fine. The flip camera can also be manually activated, and you can save up to 3 preset positions to your liking. Although I'm not really sure what you will use this for, unless you're trying to sneakily take picture of the Leng Lu and Leng Zai opposite you while pretending to text. But don't it makes you look like a creep. Just pretend I never said it. Okay, so now let's move on to the display. So this thing has pretty slim bezels, its thickest on the bottom, which is the chin, followed by the forehead, and its thinnest on both the sides. So of course it's not flagship quality thin, but it's still pretty unnoticeable and you get used to it really fast. And the panel is a Full HD Plus AMOLED display, so it has very vivid colors and great contrast. So if you like to watch Netflix or YouTube, this is really great. Now, as for refresh rate, this one goes up to 90 Hz, which is not quite as fast as some other flagships out there in the market, which have up to 120 or even 144 Hz refresh rates. But if you just want the smooth scrolling experience and you're not a hardcore gamer, it's more than enough. It also has 200 Hz touch sampling rate if you want to do some casual gaming as well. And as for the settings, you can lock it at either 90 Hz or 60 Hz, or you can choose to let it go to auto, which means the phone decides for itself depending on the situation. If you may have noticed earlier, I didn't talk about fingerprint sensor anywhere on the back or the sides of the phone, and that's because it's located under the display, which is right here. So if it works, it's pretty fast, but if your hand is slightly sweaty or just a little bit wet, or if your screen has some dirt on it, you may struggle a little bit. But in any case, it's still faster than facial unlock, because through that, you have to jump through 10,000 hoops just to get your phone to unlock. Let me demonstrate. So first, you need to press the power button. After that, you need to swipe the phone up, and then the phone will flip open. Take a look at your face, close back, and then now it's unlocked. And through all that time, you could have just pressed and it would have unlocked. And nowadays, it's COVID, you have your mask on, and if you're using the case, you have to unlock the latch. So I just recommend you just key in your thumbprint and, call it a day. When it comes to sound, the direct tune audio sounds really good. The volume can get very loud and there's some bass in it as well, which is great, although it sounds a little bit artificial. Here, take a listen. However, if you're a sensitive listener, do take note that it may sound a little bit unbalanced in landscape mode. This is probably because one of the speakers on the left here is front firing, whilst the bottom one is firing to the side. But if you're chin chai like me, then it's really not a huge deal. If you're more particular about how your music sounds, you can also go into the audio wizard and choose from up to 4 presets by direct. Or if you want more customization, you can use the 10-band equalizer to further tweak your settings. Another cool thing about this phone is gesture control. So let's say you're playing your Spotify or your music and you're on the lock screen, the black screen, you can just use your hands, use 2 fingers, draw downwards in like a pause sign, and it will either pause or play your music. Likewise, you can also draw a forwards arrow to skip the track or a backwards arrow to go to the previous track. However, I feel that one thing that's missing from this phone is the headphone jack, which is really weird because the flagship model ASUS Zenfone 8 has one, and this one does not even provide a dongle in the box. So you either have to use a USB-C headset or find your own dongle, which is kind of sad. As for specs, the ASUS Zenfone 8 Flip actually features the same hardware as its flagship counterpart, which is a Snapdragon 888 CPU along with an Adreno 660 GPU. So as expected with such powerful hardware, gaming performance was actually super good. Since I'm a MiHoYo sim, I tested it on two titles, which is Genshin Impact and Honkai Impact. Both of them ran at 60 FPS perfectly fine, and even temperatures remain relatively cool. Here are some benchmarks for you to check out. Testing was done on dynamic mode, but there are also several other performance modes you can choose from, including advanced mode where you can manually set your CPU, GPU and RAM performance. Battery life is very decent and can last at least up to 12 hours of continuous use, including up to 8 hours of continuous comic reading, which I personally tested out for research purposes. But anyway, if you're a more casual user, so let's say you just check Facebook, make a couple of phone calls, answer emails and stuff, you can use it for more than 1 day, but not up to 2 days, so you still need to charge it every single night. Battery can be topped up via the 30-watt charger, which is not exactly the fastest nowadays. You know, some brands have like 60-watt or 90-watt charging, but if you care about battery health and longevity, it's pretty fast, it's good enough for me. So it takes about 30 minutes to get it up to 50%, but it gets slower and slower as you approach full. So there's also a suite of battery care options including steady charging, scheduled charging, as well as charging limits. So you can set the charging limit to like 80 or 90%, which is kind of like how ASUS laptops don't let you charge it to full to preserve battery health. Now let's talk about the UI. This is something I really like. So this is ZenUI 11, which is closely based on Android 11. So it's very close to stock with no bloatware whatsoever, and it does come with some extra useful perks as well. ASUS has planned at least 2 major OS updates, so you don't have to worry about it in the near future. So you can do some decent customization with this. You can change the system font, the color accent, icon shapes, but then you can't actually customize icons yet though. For that, you will need to download a launcher. There's also dark mode, which is a godsend for your eyes, and it also has Game Genie, which is a pared-down version adopted from the ROG phone series. But the key feature that I really like is called the Smart Key. So this is where you can reprogram your power button on the side to do a number of things, including some functions as well as open software. So personally, I've programmed mine to take a screenshot when you hold it and open My Sejahtera when you double click it. So it's very convenient for your most used apps and functions. But if you want to turn off the phone, don't worry. You can still do so by holding down the power button and the volume down button, or you can scroll down the menu from the top and turn it off from the screen. Before we wrap up this video, let's do a quick recap about what we've learned about this phone so far. So on one hand, it has this great flip camera as well as amazing performance from both the CPU and GPU. But on the other hand, it is missing a few key features, such as wireless charging, a headphone jack, optical image stabilization, as well as ingress protection, most likely due to the design of the camera. But then again, that's not the point. Why you will buy this camera is for its great 4K 60 front videos and super amazing selfies. So if you're a vlogger or you're a selfie addict, this phone is great for you. It has flagship performance, a super clean UI, and of course the flip camera system. I mean, sure, the bezels could be a little bit slimmer, the refresh rate could be a little bit faster, but if you want that and you're not a selfie addict, you can always go for the flagship ASUS Zenfone 8. Do let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want more information, as usual, you can head on over to the link in the description. This is Stephanie from Salty News Network, signing off.